Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another weekly edition of our VS Code live stream. And it's the first live stream of the month, which means it is a release party live stream. So super excited to show y'all some of what we have. I already see a bunch of excitement going on in the chat. Hi from China. Hey, how's it going? I'm not sure what time it is there, but probably not a super convenient time. So thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Got some enthusiasm here. I'm not even good at coding, but I'm here. I love it. You don't need to be good at coding because we'll break everything down for you, and maybe this will be your inspiration to get even better at coding. All right. Hello from Belgium, from Nepal. We got people from all over. India. This is great. Oh, we got a first timer. Hello there. My first time joining. All right. Very pumped to have you here. We'll do a quick rundown of what these live streams are. So since this is the release party live stream, we have a few people from the engineering team who are going to talk about the features that they helped develop for this release. So some of y'all might be saying, Olivia, the release isn't actually out yet. And you're correct. This is one of those special release parties where we have the live stream just a couple hours before the release goes live. So the version 1.70 release, the July release, is not quite live yet, but it will be live, I think, around 11 a.m. Pacific time today. So y'all will get to talk to the engineering team to see a sneak peek of some of those features. And then you'll get to try them out later this afternoon. So definitely some exciting stuff there. So I'll go ahead and kind of get things kicked off. What we've been doing in these live streams is making sure we take some time to say thank you to our contributors. If y'all are new to the VS Code community, VS Code is open source, so we rely heavily on our contributors to help us with contributions, issue tracking, things like that. So in our release notes, we always make sure that we have a section just to thank you all. So if you want to go ahead and throw that screen up. Again, these will be in the release notes that go live in just a few hours for the release, but just definitely want to take a second to acknowledge all these people. Can't say them all individually because there's so many, which is awesome. But we have contributions to issue tracking. All these people helped with PRs. Well, it's a long list today. I'm scrolling a lot. Contributions to the generator code, to JavaScript debugging, the JSON language service, and to the Monaco editor. So if your name is on this, thank you so much for being a part of this. We really couldn't do it without you. So without further ado, we can go ahead and bring on our first guest. So today we are going to be starting off with Andrea from the VS Code team. Hey, Andrea.
Hey.
How's it going? Happy to have you here. All right.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yes, me too. And everyone in chat, definitely, as we're going through this with the engineers, this is a great opportunity to have that back and forth chat. So go ahead and put any questions or comments that you have in the chat. I'll pass them on to Andrea and the other presenters that we have today, so y'all can really get a glimpse into what some of these features are like. All right. So Andrea, what do you have planned for us today?
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about file decorations within the search results. So could you see my screen? Sorry, I have one monitor.
Let's pop that up. Yeah. Yep, everyone's good.
Okay, cool. So currently I am in the search viewlet, and I searched for a string within the VS Code repo. And what you might start to notice when I start scrolling is that some of these files actually have colors, and they also have a badge. In this case, the badge is M for modified, or it will have a number, comma M for modified. So this has been in the File Explorer for quite a while. So for example, if I want to show something in the Explorer view, then it already has like this color and this badge. So if you're not too familiar with it, we have the Git kind of status for whether it's untracked, which shows a U, M for modified, and also the number of problems. So in this case, this is a file with one error, hence the red color. And if it was a warning, then I believe that it would be more of an orangish color. So this kind of helps out in terms of kind of making certain results stand out amongst others. Uh, at least for me personally, I find myself modifying files that are already modified a lot more than others. So we thought that this would be a good feature to put in.
Awesome. I love that. We already have some excitement there. We got Hugiro saying get in error tags for search. That is nice. We also have a question. Is this beta? Can I download this? So if you missed my intro at the start, this will be going live in VS Code stable in just a few hours around 11 a.m. Pacific time. But that being said, this is also a good plug for insiders. If you look at Andrea's screen, you see how her icon is that green VS Code icon. It's not the blue one. That means that she's an insiders. So you can download insiders and get to try out all these features before they're officially in that stable VS Code. So just a quick plug there. All right, cool. So once this does go into the stable version, Andrea, do they have to enable this through any setting, or is this going to be default behavior?
This is going to be the default behavior.
Cool. I love that because that definitely helps you draw your eyes. And let's say, what if I want to customize this to maybe like change the colors, or I want to only show like the numbers or letters? How would I do that?
So for that, we currently don't have a setting, but we're planning on adding that in the next iteration or so.
Cool. Awesome. And this is all, so, all the modified, the untracked, that's with VS Code's built-in Git integration, right? This isn't with any sort of extra extension? Cool.
This is with Git integration.
All right. And so on that note, Arseny asked, will it work with other source control? So non-Git, will it, if they have some other initialized
I believe that I'm not too familiar, but with VS Code, as long as it supports it within like the source control here, which is what it gets it from, then it should be able to.
Okay, cool. So basically, if they're
it.
using that built-in source control explorer, it should be able to kind of pull those badges from it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, Arsene, definitely try that out. Let us know if that's your experience. And if not, let us know what you'd like to see. You're always welcome to have a feature request on our VS Code repo to see if there's more support we could add there. All right. Awesome. Lots of good answers here. Cool. Glad we got that. All right. So any other things you want to show with this, Andrea?
No, it's just a pretty short demo.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. And I think it's really helpful to see the little tweaks, right? Because I think that it's those like little details that you don't realize have such a big impact, right? This makes it so much easier when you are searching to really quickly see that it draws your eyes. So this is really great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, and if no one has any other questions for Andrea, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on there. Everyone try this out when the release goes into stable in just a few hours, and let us know what you think. All right. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
And we will bring Megan on next to go over some terminal updates. Hey, Megan. Oh, you're muted.
I am. There we go. Hey.
How's it going?
It's going well. Happy to be here.
Cool. Me too. All right. So we got some terminal updates, I hear, in this next release. Cool.
Yeah. So
let us know about those.
So in previous iterations, we've talked about various shell integration improvements that we've made. And formerly, it was just a preview feature, so it was disabled by default. But this iteration, we are enabling it by default, which is exciting. And for those of you that did not watch prior release parties or read prior release notes, what shell integration is something that allows us to integrate with common shells. So like Mac and Linux, it's C shell and Bash, and also PowerShell. And for Windows, it's PowerShell. And we gain insight into what's going on within the terminal. And this enables us to extract information such that we can provide useful features, such as current working directory and command detection, status decorations, and navigation. So if someone will share my screen.
Yeah. I think you might need to hit the sharing again real quick. It looks like it's not in our background anymore, and then we can throw it up.
Yes, I will do that.
Cool. We got a hi, Megan, from Moomin, so Excited to have you here.
All right, so here I am in Z Shell, and if I were to run some commands, like an error command, you see this error decoration pop up, and for the successful run command, so a command that had no exit code, you see this other decoration, and then we just have this placeholder decoration. And so one thing you might immediately be thinking is, can I configure these? Because you see both gutter decorations and overview ruler is what we call it, decorations. And you can also learn a lot about shell integration from just this menu on this command decoration, if you were to go to that link. But if you wanted to configure these decorations and how they look, that's very easy to do. So for example, you can disable one or both. You can also customize the icons that are used. So
Oh, cool.
that's pretty cool. Like if I want to change the error to be, I don't know, so many good options. There you go. So super customizable, and that was our goal.
Nice. So that looked like kind of a built-in list of icons you could choose from. If you like randomly wanted a different icon, could you do that?
You can choose from that list of icons.
Okay. But you can just like upload and be like, oh, I want this like custom one I graphic designed for it. It's that built-in list.
No, you
Okay,
can't.
cool. Good to know.
So we also have this handy command that allows you to look at recently run commands. And it now has contiguous search and fuzzy search. So like if I search for git here, these results appear. If I search for just like the exact GT, it won't appear there. But let's say I wanted just a rough match, then I could use fuzzy search and get more results. So that's pretty cool. And then so first of all, are there any questions about shell integration?
Yes, there's a couple. Let's see which one should we? Okay. So one question is, can I make it so that the prompt is custom?
Can you customize your terminal prompt?
I assume that's the meaning of the question. If not, then let us know in another comment.
Yes, you can in your RC files. This is not something related to shell integration, but if you have a custom prompt set in any of your RC files, it should work with that. And then any other questions?
Yes. So one question is, can theme creators customize these icons and colors as well? So maybe, if you out of the box have a theme extension, can you configure it so that it will make these icons, whatever their decision is for that theme?
No, not currently.
Okay, cool.
And this is like you can choose from every codicon that we have and configure the color. So it's an extremely wide array of options at the moment.
Yeah, it looked like that was a very large list.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we set the number of scroll back lines?
Yeah, you're always welcome to set the number of scroll back lines.
All right. Can you do like a quick demo of how they would do that?
There it is.
Cool. All right. So for those of you who might be new to VS Code, she just opened the settings, which you can do if you're on Windows with Control, comma, right? I think is the shortcut.
Yes, or command.
Or command. Yeah, if you're on Mac. And then just search scroll back, and that's how you can find it.
Yeah.
All right.
Another cool thing is if you hover this, an error command, you can see the exit code and when it failed, which is pretty neat.
Nice.
So that's it pretty much for shell integration. And if you're curious about a more in-depth view of this, the last release party, my colleague Daniel, who has worked on this with me for several iterations, did a deeper dive into some of these features. So
Awesome.
check that out. And then the other thing that is new is we have far better support now for PowerShell key bindings on all platforms. And this is thanks to shell integration. And these weren't possible before due to the lack of VT encoding. So provided that shell integration is working in PowerShell, you can have key bindings for menu complete, set mark, add line, select line, and select backwards line. So if I type a bunch of stuff, and for those PowerShell power users out there, you know that pressing Shift and Home selects the line backwards. So I'll do that now. And you see it works, which is pretty cool. It's supported now in our integrated terminal on all platforms.
Nice. I'm sure there's a lot of PowerShell users in the chat, so I'm sure they're pretty excited right now about that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great feature.
Cool. All right. So a couple other questions kind of trickling in. Is the terminal improved? I would say definitely. Megan just showed a couple of cool new features there in this new release, which will be going out in a couple hours. And like she mentioned, we also in last month's release party had Daniel on to talk about even more terminal improvements. So we usually have a pretty solid section in the release notes of all the improvements we do on the terminal. Lots of great work going in to that by our engineering team. Okay, so let's see. I need to scroll back. There's been a couple of different ones. Can you pin or bookmark a command that you use frequently?
So that is in the works. We are planning to further improve the run recent command such that you can pin commands exactly like you're talking about. So yes, that's
okay, cool.
Upcoming.
Nice. I love when we get little sneak peeks into the roadmap. Okay, can I integrate like MSys2 in the VS Code terminal?
I'm not familiar with what MSys2 is.
I'm not either. So if anyone in the chat can answer that, definitely go ahead and help VAD out there. And then if there's any sort of functionality missing, definitely let us know and we can help see if that's something that we want to support. All right, let's see. Let's see. What is the command history shortcut?
I believe it is Control-Shift-R. Actually, I don't know if we have one by default, but the idea is that the run recent command will sort of be like an improved version of reverse search in terminals. So definitely use whatever key binding that you use for that for this new and improved version of it.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Is there an option of cleaning the console? I miss it so much. I'm not sure.
You can clear the terminal. That's not related to
writing clear, right? Okay, yeah. Okay. Looks like we had a couple of other MSys2 comments. So like we said, that's not really something that's in the scope of this, but definitely let us know if that's something that we should be supporting. And if there's a certain experience that you want to see, let us know. Okay. We're just getting a whole hodgepodge of terminal questions, Megan. I think people are kind of saving them. I'm going to try to weed through them for the most relevant ones. Can you save the PowerShell or shell output to a file directly?
Kind of. So I'll share the screen.
Yeah.
So I have some output here and I do run recent command. Yeah, so this is, it looks like, what is that? Control-R? Does that work? Yeah, so I have it set to Control-R, which is pretty handy. So like you see here, if I want the output of this, I just click this button and it's in this night's file here.
Nice,
so,
handy.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's see. One more. Let's see. Is there any way to open a folder within the current window of VS Code from integrated terminal using the code and then the path to whatever folder you want to open?
Open a folder within the current window of VS Code. So like if you have a multi-root repository and
maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Are you asking about a folder that is within the folder that you're in? Because I don't know what that would do. But if you're talking about an external folder and you're providing the path to it, yeah, that should open a new window of VS Code.
Cool. Okay, so basically just open that new one. Okay. Okay, so we got a lot of other random questions in here. Some are not related to terminal at all, so I'm going to skip through them. They're still very valuable, though. Definitely, if you're having any issues, I think we've seen some like random Jupyter Notebook stuff. Definitely go to those relevant repos and file any issues you're having, tweet at us, whatever. But for the scope of Megan, I won't put her through all of those questions. Okay, all right. Any other notes you want to make for what's next in terminal or anything else you want to share, Megan?
No.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, we're going to have Tanha on to talk about the VS Code server. Hey, Tanha, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Jinx. Happy to have you here. I see you got the plants in the background too.
Yeah, I'm a big plant
That's
hoarder,
nice.
so
You're really
that's a lot.
soaking in the sun there. That's nice.
Yeah, they're enjoying the limited Seattle sun.
Ah, yes. I'm in South Carolina, so there's too much sun.
I'm jealous.
Balance there, yeah. Okay, cool. So you're going to talk about the VS Code server today. Let's get started.
Yeah, so some of you may have already heard about it. We released this last month. We had a big announcement blog post and a couple cool videos, but I just wanted to highlight it again here and answer any questions that anyone in the live stream might have. So my current setup is I am SSH connected to a remote machine. And you could imagine, like, if you're using Azure or some other VM service, you could just be using their web portal and working directly off of that, and you don't have to like SSH connect, but whatever way to get access to your remote machine. I already have the code server installed. It's a CLI, and essentially what I want to do is make this remote machine available in VSCode.dev, which is VS Code for the web. And so when you have the CLI installed, and there's instructions on the blog post, which we will share the link in a bit, once you have that installed, you can just run code server and then ignore a couple of the warnings there. But we do use a port forwarding service, and that port forwarding service is free, but it does require some authentication to get in. So we use GitHub for right now. Eventually, we will also support Microsoft accounts as well, if that's something that people want, but we're starting off with just GitHub. So I'm going to go on this link, and I'm going to paste in this code. So I'm going to go over to this page, go to this link, and then copy this code over. And this is a fresh machine, so I don't really have all of this set up already. But if you have already set it up once, you won't have to go through this authorization process and so on again. So that takes a second. And then I get to choose what I want to name this machine. So that's easier for me to find again. So for this demo, I'm just going to call it demo. So demo machine, let's say. And then you'll see that. So we're creating a connection to our service to make it available for the web. And so there's two ways to connect to this machine now. One way is you can copy this link, and this link will stay consistent. So usually it's either insiders or vscode.dev / the extension ID, so the extension that's doing the work to connect us to this machine. The name of the machine, so whatever name you assigned it, and the port in which this the server process is running on. You don't have to remember that, but like if you want to get back through a link, you would have to keep in mind what this port is. By default, it's 545. So that's just the default port that we have set for.
So for the most part, that like the insiders.vscode.dev / msvscode.remote server, that part's going to pretty much be stable. It's just going to be that last section, the URL.
Yeah, this is for everyone. This is stable. And then this is your specific machine. And then this is also pretty consistent unless you have this port being used or you want to use a different port instead.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so the one way, the most common way is probably you copy this link now. And let's go here. And then I open that up. There we go. Take me a second. That's really odd. Okay.
Love the demo gods. It always happens.
Oh, I got this working like 5 seconds ago. Oh no.
While this is loading, do you want to talk a little bit about how people can use this?
Yeah. Okay. So that seemed to work weirdly. I don't know what happened there. There was a weird blip for a second, but seems to be working now. Wow, that was okay. Let's ignore this for now. I don't know what happened there. Sorry, your question was how people would use this?
Yeah. So someone just had that question in the chat. Is this open to anyone? How much do we need to pay?
Yeah, so this is open to anyone, asterisks. Right now we're in private preview, so you do have to sign up through the sign up form, which is available on the blog post. And I think we'll have a link to that shared in a bit. But you can just sign up there. We're adding people regularly. I think we already have a couple thousand people who have already access to it. So we add people every week on a rolling basis. But it is free. The only reason why we're doing this through like sign up form is just we just want to control the amount of traffic and kind of make sure that we're not hitting any extreme bugs early on. But it is completely free. There's a limit, which I don't think most people will hit, is 10 active remote machines at once. So like you have 10 machines in which you're running the CLI on actively.
Okay.
Which I guess if you have a lot of remote machines that you're going across, then that might be a limit that you hit, and that might be, unfortunately, we can't support that. But otherwise, you can use it essentially unlimited, and it will feel unlimited to you.
Cool.
So yeah, that's
good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have that link up right now on the screen to that blog post. That blog post is going to tell you basically everything you need to know about it and how to sign up if this looks like something you want to try out.
Yeah. I think you can share my screen again. I have it working now. So, okay, cool. So, anyways, ignore that. But now I have access to my remote machine. It's a plain Ubuntu machine. I didn't set anything up. I just set it up for this demo. So there's really nothing on it. But I could just like open up any files and do anything on here. I guess we can look at some random file just for like context. Let's see if we have anything interesting. Okay, nothing that interesting to share, but essentially I can work off of any remote machine. And so this is one way. The other way in which I can access a machine is through the extension itself. So I'm going to also take my local MacBook. So this is cross-platform. So not only can you set this up on Linux, you can set this up on Mac or Windows. So I have my, this is my Mac window terminal now. So I can similarly run the same thing here. Take a second. Cool. And because I have already set everything up on this machine, it doesn't ask me for anything. The name is consistent once you set it up for your machine. That's the name. So everything else is consistent. So I know it's called Work Machine. So an alternative way that I can connect is, and let's say I'm on now vscode.dev. This will work across Insiders and vscode.dev. So I can look up the extension. We don't have the greatest SEO right now, but we will fix that in coming in. Oh my gosh. Let's see. There we go. Oh, I already have it installed. Cool. Okay. So actually, I guess I already have that installed. So then I can click this. And then as you can see, that's also available. So this is the remote indicator that's you'll commonly see in desktop, but now it's also available on web because now we allow you to connect to a remote machine through web. So now I can click on connect to remote. And yep, I want to give GitHub authorization. This is how we kind of connect you to give access to your machines through that.
Okay. Is it generally just you have to give access that one time and then you're set?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once you log in once, you shouldn't need to do that again. We use the same GitHub authentication provider as VS Code Core. So however often you have to log into VS Code Core with your GitHub credentials, you would have to do that here.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so my Mac at work is called my work machine. So I can click on work machine and then that will reload and try to connect to my work machine. Let me just, I think the one, sorry, I have changed support since this demo, so I'm just gonna adjust that really quickly.
Yeah.
There we go.
There's actually a port question. If they can change it to some number if they prefer, and how would they do it?
You can. Okay, so this is connecting. I'll finish this demo and then, okay, ignore that. We're still developing this extension regularly, so that's also why it's in private preview. Ignore some random errors you might see. But this is much richer. As you can see, I have access to my entire repo. And so let's see if I have a notebook somewhere. That would be kind of cool to run. Oh, not there, apparently. 1 second. Sorry. I think this has a notebook, or this. I'll just make a notebook here.
Okay.
For the demo. And you'll also notice that every single time you redirect to any place in your system, you'll see that this changes. So after the name of your machine and the port, then you can just put in like the file path to wherever you're trying to go to. So if you don't want to go through that like open folder way, you can just open that.
Okay, that's handy if you like don't want to drill through and like, yes, this one, you just know what the path is already. Cool.
Yeah, and you could like save this, for example, like if you just want to save this URL, so you can just always just pull it up, like you can always do that, like you can bookmark it and so on.
But basically, like as long as that server is running on that host machine, you can just bookmark that and you'll always have that available. Cool.
Exactly, yeah. So I can make let's just install that as well. This is very fresh, so we're getting the full first-hand experience together.
I love it.
So we're installing the Python extension, and this is actually being installed in my Mac. So I'm connected remotely to my Mac. So when I'm installing this Python extension, it's being installed on my Mac machine.
Okay.
And so when you can install extensions like you would if you were going through like remote SSH or remote containers, you can install it on the environment that you're working off of.
Okay.
And so I did that so I can get access. I think I should already have Python. Okay. No, sorry, this demo, I clearly did not set this up well.
That's okay. It's good for everyone to see what
yeah. There we go. I do have Python. Okay. That's what I thought. Cool. And so I should be able to run foo, and that should run. Cool. And so this is all happening on my Mac. So there's a lot of things. So whatever you would do locally, it's happening, but within the browser. I think it's just setting everything up, so it takes a second.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. I think it's something that's kind of hard, I think, to show on a demo like this, right? Because it just all looks like one screen to people right now. But this is really cool because this isn't the machine she's on right now. She's able to actually connect this through the web to a completely different machine. So there's a lot going on in the background here. She gets to use the compute of her other machines to actually be able to run this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like one of the benefits is that if you have a beefier machine and you want to work on it, that's like the benefit also of a remote SSH extension for both of these is that if you have a beefier machine and you rather use the compute of that machine or you just want to use the environment of that machine, you can do that natively. With remote SSH, you can only do that on desktop because we use your SSH binary on your machine to actually connect to that remote machine. But with this, with the code server, you can actually connect through web as well because we don't rely on SSH.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So there's kind of a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people here are familiar with some of the other remote ones that you're talking about, the remote SSH, remote containers, code spaces. There's some mention of that. Can you just define a little bit more about how this fits into all of that and maybe the different use case scenarios?
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of categorize into two buckets. So there's the containers bucket and the remote compute bucket, I guess that's what I like to call it. So the containers bucket is mainly just it's kind of a combination of the remote containers extension and code spaces. And in the way that the remote containers extension allows you to work inside of a container, whether that container is locally on your machine or that container is somewhere else in the web. And why I say somewhere else in the web is the remote containers extension allows you to go through SSH to connect to a container on a remote machine, a remote VM. But you could also use code spaces as like a containerized environment. And so you could connect to a container in that fashion. And so those are like the benefits. And like that comes with the benefits of using a container, which is like a very isolated environment. And you can have a consistent setup across different people because you can set up a dev container file, which has the specifications of what you want this environment to look like. For example, what version of Python, what Python packages, any other just environment setup that you want to have consistent across either your team or yourself. So that's the containers bucket. And then the other bucket is, oh, I want to use VS Code, but I want to have the power of a remote machine, but I want it to feel like I'm working locally. And in that bucket, CodeSpaces is still there because with CodeSpaces, it's a paid service, which you can you can get compute instances from GitHub. And so you can work on the CodeSpaces remote machines. And that's nice because you can quickly spin it up, quickly shut it down. It doesn't require you to manage too much on your end. The other bucket is SSH. So a lot of machines or a lot of VMs are SSH accessible, meaning that they're available to SSH. And so if you have a remote machine like I do here, this Ubuntu machine is also SSH available. And so I can use the remote SSH extension to connect to this machine. But this does require the SSH. First, it requires it to be on desktop because we use SSH on your machine to connect to it. And second, it also requires this machine to be available on SSH. And for some security policies, that's not okay. And for some companies, or even just for your own machine, you might not want it to be SSH available. And so then comes this third option, which is the code server. I think the two main reasons to use it, one is you can access it from web. So this means that like I could work on it from my iPad or my phone or anything. Like I could access this machine because this is on web, and you can open a web browser in a lot of different platforms. It means that I can access that machine in so many different places in so many different ways. So I could be sitting on the bus or like on a plane and using my iPad to connect to my Mac at home, for example. So that's one benefit. And then the second one is the SSH restriction. So if you have a SSH restriction for your remote machine and you wanted a different way to connect to it, then you could use this, which doesn't actually use SSH, but uses another port forwarding service that we have. And so then you don't have to open up your machine to SSH if that's a restriction from your company or from yourself.
Gotcha. Okay. That is a great rundown. We have a lot of questions. I'll start with one that was kind of more of a comment at the start. One person said they don't want to run VS Code Server because their laptop's not really suitable for it. So I'm assuming maybe they don't really have the compute power. So kind of what you were just talking about with the differences in the remote experiences, this probably wouldn't be the best option, right? Because this is more of a bring your own compute. And if you don't have that compute, then, well, it's not going to be super helpful.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, we can't support that.
Yeah, no worries. But that would end up being maybe something looking at CodeSpaces for, right? Because then you can kind of use that compute in the cloud.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. Do you have anything you want to demo again before I kind of dive into some of these questions?
No,
Okay.
that sounds good.
All right. Let me sort through them real quick because there's been a lot. Okay. Do you actually want to circle back to that one question we have about how to change the port to a different number?
Yeah. So let's quit that. So there's a lot of options from the code server. If you do -H, you can see there's a lot of different things. And specifically, if you do serve -H, you can see what kind of things you can change when you're running in the mode in which you're making your machine available to the web. And so one thing you can change is the host, but the other thing you can also change is the port. So I don't actually have to use the serve subcommand. We made it so that just the name of the CLI was also like equal to code server space serve. We made those kind of equal to each other, but you can also do this. Like you can do this or you can do without. But you could do -P and then, I don't know, let's say like 9,000. Dash. Actually, maybe you do. Sorry. See that. And then that takes a second. But then now it's set up on 9,000 instead.
Cool. So you don't have to like completely restart it all and be like, this is a new one, I need to rename it and everything. You can just change it as it's already going.
Yeah.
Cool.
You just have to kind of remember that you changed it, and so this URL will look different based on
it. And then it doesn't work, and you're like, oh no, what happened? Yeah.
And as you can see, because I closed it, now VS Code is complaining that it's no longer available at this port.
Gotcha. That's good to know. Cool. One other question. So I think this kind of came up when you were, looking through your remote machines file structure and clicking through. Are you able to restrict access to particular directories? So maybe if you don't want the remote connection to be able to see a certain folder on the host machine, is that possible?
At the moment, I don't believe so. Whatever file like directory restrictions we have, it's equal across the board. So like whatever you can do in SSH or containers in terms of restricting access to files, you can do here. I don't think you can. I think the most you can maybe do is like set user permissions on the files themselves manually to make them like not readable. But I don't think we can limit what shows up to users at the moment. But that could be a great feature request for the remote extensions if you would like to restrict what is available to see.
Cool. Yeah, definitely a great plug for, let us know what sort of use cases y'all want to see in these features. And, we'll try to add it to the docket if we can. Okay. Does this also provide remote terminal access?
Yes. So this is anything that I do. I could change this to 9,000, but anything I do will be connected to. Actually, am I still connected? Oh, this is a demo machine. Oh, that's not what I want to do. I wanted to view the terminal. But as you can see, this terminal is actually my Ubuntu machine. Whereas in this case, once I'm connected, you'll see it'll be like my Mac machine. But yeah, you get access to the terminal of the remote machine that you're using in web.
Awesome. Okay, so we have one person kind of attempting to kind of summarize what VS Code Server is. So basically, it's a HTTPS-based replacement for remoting that was only possible through SSH. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So it's like a way to connect. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Let's see. We got a nice comment. This looks legit. Will be nice for remote work. Yes, I love the remote story that VS Code team is really diving into. I think I feel like every single release, there's something else cool that you can do, and people get so pumped for it. And so many people don't know about it too. It really there's so much power there.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is just the beginning. That's why you see a couple bugs here and there and so on. But yeah. I'm really excited when this is fully fleshed out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, is it possible to have two different laptops connected to a single remote server?
You can have, I haven't stress tested to 100's limit, but you can have multiple machines connected to the same code server. Okay. The only caveat is that you will be working off of the same extensions and same, file explorer and everything. And so usually I recommend one person. I don't think the experience is that great for multiple different people accessing the same machine, just because you might have different extensions per person, and then that might get a little bit messy. But you as a person, yeah, I can connect through two separate browsers, and those will all actually be separate connections to the server, each tab. But also I can connect through different platforms all at the same time.
Okay, awesome. Okay, there's been lots of comments, so I'm scrolling through. Okay, so someone said, I think I get it now. This basically lets you connect to another machine to use its compute time, so you wouldn't have to pay for it like you would in Codespaces.
Exactly, yeah. This is just another way to bring your own compute.
Cool, okay. Is there any RBAC control for the server so that multiple people could connect to the same machine?
So yeah, kind of like what I mentioned. So right now, at least with the port forwarding service, we only allow those who with the same account to connect. So whatever GitHub account you use to host the tunnel, or host the port, the server, is also the same account you need to log into to access on vscode.dev. So at the moment, no, we don't have that support for multiple people. That is in the plans, but I can't give an estimate right now when that would be in support. But also, I would also say that I would also make sure that you're connecting to different accounts on the remote machine, because otherwise we use the same VS Code installation on the remote machines, and so that could get messy, like I mentioned, with shared extensions and so on and so on.
Right, makes sense. Cool. Okay. Are we able to connect to dev containers from the remote host?
Not at the moment. So we do want to have integration, so similar to how we have SSH plus dev containers. At the moment, well, I guess you could. It just wouldn't be as seamless. You can get the containers extension on this remote machine. You can search up remote containers and install it on the machine, and then go through another connection jump. But that's not fully like well tested and fully supported yet. So there might be some bugs and errors in using that.
Okay, cool. I know we just like spammed you with a ton of questions. There's still a few more coming in, but people are pretty excited about it. There's one question about if they need to have a fast and stable internet connection to use this, if it won't work, if you have kind of some latency and things like that.
If you have a slower connection, it can seem a bit laggy and slow sometimes. If you have a really bad connection, then it might not work out that great, just because we are constantly like feeding in data from one side to the other. So I think it really depends on each person and like what their connection is. But I think in like the slowest cases, it might not work out that great. Like VS Code might just keep erroring out on disconnects, because it's expecting to see like every reoccurring, I don't know, a couple seconds or so of like a connection between the browser and the remote machine.
Okay, cool. All right. I know we're kind of like way over the time, but we'll take this last question, kind of talking about more with the SSH comparison. Were there any limitations using SSH? Was the switch to HTTPS just mainly for that more stable connection to the server?
So there's no limitations of SSH, and like the SSH extension is still fully supported, still very popular. This is just for people who maybe don't want to have SSH for whatever security reasons that they might have on their, like in their organization or whatever. Or if you just don't want to set up SSH, like maybe SSH is difficult to set up on your VM and you don't want to go through the process of setting that up. But there's no like, we're not recommending for you to walk away from SSH if that's working out well for you. If that's working out great, then like keep doing that. This is just another option if you either need browser connection or you don't want to use SSH and like SSH was a limit for you before.
I think that's such a great point that you made. You know, we've been talking about all these different remote experiences. Find what works for you, find what works for your use case, and then use that. You don't have to use every single one of these to get the experience that you want. If the SSH is working for you, if, you try out this VS Code server and you love it, stick with that. Definitely find, if you're a dev container person, stick with that. But know that there's so many tools out there and we're constantly improving them and adding even more tools into your toolbox there.
Yeah, exactly. We're just trying to make it work for everyone. So there's always limitations, and we're always adding new remote experiences to try to enable more people, but not to say you should walk away from your current remote experiences if they're working well for you.
Cool. So with that, I think we can put up that blog post URL one more time. And if I know you said it a couple times, so if you just want to reiterate one more time about how people can start trying this out and what private preview means, I think that would be a great note to end on.
Yeah. So you can go on the blog post, and there's going to be a sign up link, and then you just fill in a couple pieces of information about you, and then we have kind of a queue of people that want to get on the wait list, and every couple days we're rolling and adding people in, and so we have a couple thousand people already, and we're projected to keep adding people over the coming weeks. So I would recommend doing that first. And then once you have that, then you'll actually have access to the port forwarding service that we use to allow you to connect to your remote machine from vscode.dev. So you'll get an email once you get in, and I'll say, yeah, congrats, like you have access now. And so if you have access, then if you follow the steps in the blog or what I just showed, you'll actually be able to like properly authenticate into the service. Otherwise, if you try it without getting access, then it will just error out early, because when it asks for like GitHub auth, it checks that you're on the list of people who have access. And if you're not, then it'll just error out.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Y'all definitely, if you haven't already requested access, if this looks cool, definitely go ahead to that blog post and fill out that sign up form to hopefully get access soon. And like Tanha mentioned, this is, in that private preview, one of the reasons for that is, it's a new feature, right? So you might encounter bugs, you might encounter, limitations for use cases you want. Let us know. That's what we want to hear, is if there's a certain use case that you want this to do and it's not handling, if there's some bugs, we want to hear it all. And we want to know how this can be the best possible experience for you. So try that out, and then keep in touch with what you like and don't like. Cool. All right, Tanha, any final thoughts before we head off?
No, I'm excited to hear where you guys use it and any requests or bugs that you run into. Always happy to get more bugs and requests.
Yeah, I think you're the first developer to say that. I love that.
I mean, that means people are using it, and so that's
Yeah,
exciting.
very true.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Tanha. We really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through the VS Code server.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. So that's the end of our presenters today. If you are just now logging on or missed kind of the intro part, the July release is going live around 11 a.m. Pacific time. So just a couple hours before it goes into our stable VS Code release. So you can try out all the features here that Andrea, Megan demoed. And then you can also go ahead and sign up for that private preview for VS Code server that Tanha demoed if you're interested in that. And just, a quick plug that we always do at the end. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. This recording for the live stream will be available on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch it and catch up on all the highlights there. And we actually also, as we're on the VS Code server topic, we do have a full-length YouTube video about VS Code server where you get to code on an iPad. So definitely cool if you want a little more information about what that experience looks like. And then we also have a TikTok channel where we try to be funny, post some shorts a few times a week. On both our TikTok and YouTube channel, we'll also be posting a release highlight short next week where you get to see even more of the cool stuff that's out in this release. So with that, thank you so much to our presenters today, to Andrea, Megan, and Tanha. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the rest of the VS Code team for all their hard work that they put in to make the releases happen. And thank you to all our contributors as well. And we will see you next week for another VS Code live stream. Thanks, y'all.